now, as we go into since we're not using V-Ray, what you're going to do is Rhino actually has some pretty cool tools on here for running some of the display modes. And so if you go to this, if you just Google Advanced Display for Rhino, or you can just copy this website out, you can come in here. Some people have actually supplied some of these online, and we're going to actually utilize some of them with a little bit of modification. The ghosted blueprint is what I'm actually going to be using here, and you just download this INI. So if you click and download that, you can get that file, and if you click, you can download the background grid. If we hop back into Rhino now, we can come in here and we can start to change our viewport properties. So if we pull this down, let's just go into display options. And if you go in here, you need to do two things first. You're going to have to adjust your Opengl settings. And I'm going to encourage you, I'll just leave this on here for a second. You want these things to match. So you're going to use hardware acceleration modes. You're going to redraw the scene when viewports are exposed. And then you want to set your anti-aliasing to 8, linear, and then any isotropic filtering to high. Once you've done that, hit OK, it'll process. And that will enable you to actually run the other display modes, particularly rendering out some of the shadows. Because if you don't do that, things won't actually visualize properly. From there, you can come into display options, and if you just click onto display modes, you can hit import, and you can go and find your file. Now these are you're going to download zip folders. You need to pull these files out of the zip folders and put them somewhere, and then go and find that. Find your ghosted. I downloaded all of them. I was toying around with them, and then hit open, and you can then it'll come in here. Okay. And if we go, I'm just going to select Ghosted Blueprint, and if we come over down here, I've already imported it so we can see what some of the settings are in here. Once you do that, the one adjustment you will need to make is your background image file. You're going to have to, since you downloaded that, you're going to have to go relink that essentially. So wherever you downloaded that to, you select that guy. So if you hit Blueprint, that you can just select this guy, and you can go ahead. And I've already done that, so there's no need to redo that. Otherwise, everything should be all set and good to go for this. You scroll down, you can play with the lighting. I encourage you guys to test some of this stuff out. And I'll go through some of the other viewports in more greater detail in another video for some of the other diagrams. But then essentially what you're going to do is, I've taken this, and this is, if we look at, I've taken the geometry and repositioned it back onto my arm. Noting that I had to actually do some massaging, and the scaling is a little bit weird, and because my mesh wasn't all that great and it didn't drive such a fantastic surface, you might have to do a little push and pull and shift. And I understand that you guys are going to be using some elastic fabric, so you may need to scale this up to make it slightly bigger so it floats outside of it so it'll render out properly. And then I've actually taken the piece that I was going to configure and actually really scale this up. This is probably the size of a car. Or a small car, bicycle. Yeah, maybe not a car. That'd be a very small car. But you can see that it's, in terms of a scalar relationship, that it's going to give us a nice visualization. What we can do from there is if we click this guy down here, we can set this to Ghosted Blueprint, and you will get a viewport rendering of your piece. And you can use this to start to really do some special stuff with some of the visualizations. Okay. Now the problem is, like, how do we get this out of Rhino to make this like a really, really nice high resolution image that we put in a portfolio or online? Because obviously if I'm just doing screen capture of my laptop, it's not going to work all that well. Although it might work slightly better on your guys' big screens. Rhino has a command that's sort of hidden. If you type view and it's captured a file, it'll capture your screen on a file. Well, if you just hit that, it just asks you to save it out, and that's not really what we want, because it's not going to give us any options to set the resolution. If you run that command with a dash and then type view capture to file, it will prompt you for all the different information that you're going to need to give it. So we can come in here, it's going to ask save file name, we'll call this test3, hit save, and then we can set the width, the height, the scale, all of the axes that are going to actually be represented in here. So if I've already started to adjust this, like say we can set this to 1200. in terms of the vertical dimension, and then hit enter. We can adjust that out, and then we just hit enter, and it will render out a very nice high resolution file. Okay, and you can see that difference because I had it at 1000 before, and here I had it at a really low resolution as I was testing stuff. Okay, and so you can use any image that you guys want to start to base this up, but this will be one of the diagrams that I want you guys to reduce. It'll be the mesh with the garment actually mapped onto your body, and then an enlarged image of that. Sorry, if I could talk. All right, and something to note in this is that while this is in perspective, what I would like you guys to be in as you do this is a paraline view, and so that you can do this as an axonometric representation, so that we get nice clean stuff in here. And as if you look at this and notice that this is kind of like, well, the lighting in this representation isn't all that great. You can either rotate the model to get different lighting, or you can actually mess with the view mode. So if we come in here and go under display options, other settings, oh actually I believe it's in here. You scroll down, you can we'll just go to the default lighting and see what that does. Right, and you can see that has some pretty significant impacts. Custom lighting. And you can see there are actually lights that have been set into the system here by whoever set up this model. Okay, and so that's going to be how you guys are going to get out one of the first diagrams that you guys are going to be producing for this.